tonight is very special because usually we have a forester and one of our bird experts delivering this lecture, not a lecture, but it'll be more of a discussion because if I know Mr. Harris would get you involved in this presentation. And we're very happy to have Mr. Harris this evening to do this presentation.
I have been very fortunate to live on the island of Dominica. I grew up on the island of Dominica. I grew up among birds for many years of my life in the north. And I went to school, and I was very fortunate to get a substantial amount of my schooling free, maybe because I studied hard, or my mother made me study hard. But fortunately, I have been able to do everything I wanted to do in life. And I'm still continuing to get away with it. On Dominica, you get away with these things. You are close to nature, and you have the encouragement to enjoy it. I wish all of you here will have that pleasure at some time to continue doing the things you really want. Making money is fun too, but making money doing what you like is really where the fun lies. And you can enjoy it into your old age. Human beings can get different pleasures. We can, for instance, here you have the congruous warbler. That's a bird that lives up in the valleys. In fact, maybe less than a mile and a half, 2 miles up from here. And it's a very beautiful bird. It's a very interesting bird. And you can definitely enjoy seeing it. The blue-headed hummingbird is a bit rough with it. But that's because it's probably resting between feeding young or doing something like that. It'd be interesting to know what this one was doing at the time. It's found only in Dominica and in the French West Indies. Yeah, Martinique. My friend has restricted. And yes, it's restricted. Yes, very, 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 very remarkable. And then across here, you see the red-necked parrot. That's the parrot which you see all over Dominica in years to come. Right now, it has spread its wings from Mont Prosper, I think, right now, to the valleys of in the north of the island, all through. We now have it thanks to rare species and the forestry department. Up there, you see the parrot that is on the seals of Dominica. It is probably the oldest Amazonian parrot, and you cannot visually make out the difference between the males and the females. Even humans, you get away with being able to see the difference. But it's such an old species that there is no difference between the male and the female. However, I sometimes like to fool around and say, look, the reason is that we probably should have done that among the human population. We would have probably got away with doing our chores fairly at home. So you get males participating more in what the females are struggling to do. But it's fun. Birds. Ecologically important birds. Pollination. Why do we think birds are so important? Pollination of flowers. You would have none of that without a substantial number of birds. The bees do their part, yes, but the birds are very important to the large flowers which we have in the tropics. Dispersal of seed. Of course, dispersal of seed goes without question. The parrots, in fact, have a habit of eating only part of the fruit and dropping the seed. And although it is a very wasteful thing in the minds of some, but for spreading the population of forest trees, it is very, very important. The control of insects and rats. Of course, we're referring here mainly to the hawks and the kestrels and these. They do quite a good job of that. Control of populations of some other wild creatures. Yes, rats, snakes sometimes, and not that we in Dominica is a particularly, no, I wouldn't say they are a proud country. Dominica is a particularly sensitive country in that we attempt to protect even our snakes. And it's illegal to kill the snakes in Dominica. And although you might see them dead on the roadside from vehicles, we don't agree with it. We believe that they are necessary for protection of, prevention of the spread and multiplication of rodents, and make an effort to protect them. But all the species on the planet will go through the process of fitting into an ecological niche. One will feed off the other. To serve as prey items for some other animals. Of course, you see this kestrel here, which is really from North America. It comes down here and spends some time and breeds. And it's got a rat in its. So together we can help birds every day. Gardens, bird watchers, cat lovers, yes. Bird feeders, nature lovers, cat lovers. Now, cat lovers is an interesting one because cat lovers, if they understand birds and cats, they have to keep them apart. Because cats as a species are one of the most violent. Although they're small, they will kill for sport. They are very human men. And I say that with some men. I hope they do doctors here. But really, cats do that. And you will see from the next slide that why that is so. Well, some of us are very concerned, and we feed birds. What do we feed them? Sometimes it's very much like what we do ourselves. We might put sugar in feeders and feed the birds. That's very bad. They will probably get diabetes and similar symptoms in their old age, just like we will get. If you're going to feed birds, feed them grains of some kind that will imitate what they get in the wild. And for goodness sake, make sure the feeders are clean, or you will be getting them into a lot of trouble. If you're going to give your feeders a germ-free bath, the best thing to use is water, soap, and bleach. Bleach is the master product, but you have to use it right away. If you're going to use bleach, within 15-20 minutes, bleach will have lost all its action in the water. So, for goodness sake, use it like your mom uses bleach in the kitchen. I don't know about keeping cats inside all the time. It can be quite difficult for them. I have a cat at home on the roof. It doesn't go down because I have dogs down below. and but the roof is flat. What I've found I can do is to feed it very well, and it will still take a few birds, you know. So what I do is to try and feed the birds away from the cat. Baby birds in nests, please don't let the cat be able to get access to them, or it will surely kill them, and you don't want to kill the babies. Ah, yes. A lot of us do that. Would you believe that that picture is in a window? And birds believe that they are going to fly towards the tree, and what they're flying into is into a glass. That can be quite a problem, and I'll show you the next slide, because it shows you impact, and it shows you impact. There are two sides there. And yes, somebody recognized Stephen's office. Right now, if you go to that office, it has a heavy curtain right now. So he's corrected the problem. But the birds, a glass can be much of a problem. In one of my windows, I have heavy curtains, and somehow the reflection from the trees outside let the birds think that they were flying into a garden, and what they flew into was a glass. And it was a very powerful, I'm sure that bird died, because the two panes of glass got broken from it. So probably the best thing you can do, which is not always what you want, is to probably darken the glass with one of those tinted materials, and you can protect the birds. If you find a glass window in your home, it's really a problem to the birds, because a lot of them will crash into it. You can actually tint it and try to protect the animals. You know, you're doing a very good thing. Now, yes. Some birds will leave their nests and stay on the ground. Adults will continue to feed them and kill them. Don't pick them up and pretend to feed them if you know nothing about feeding birds. The bird species, what happens is that the little ones don't know how to fly, and the mothers encourage them by calling them for them to start taking their first flights. And their first flight very often ends up on the ground. So don't feel sorry for them. It's part of the normal process of things, and they will get, their mothers come down and feed them. Their mothers are very much like our mothers. Regardless of what they do, they will go to them. Yes, if they fall near to your dog or your cat, move them, but just move them away from the area. Now, you are looking at, I think, one of the greatest things we can do as a people. These are young kids who are learning lessons about the other creatures who live on the planet with them. And they are learning to use binoculars and monoculars. But the great thing is they are getting interest in creatures around them from a safe distance, where you don't disturb the creatures. You don't disturb them by frightening them or making the interactions inadequate. But I guess this could depend on native plants for food and shelter. Yes, food, in this case, these birds are something that is very, very important. And the more wealthy we become, the more important it is to understand that invasive plants can damage the culture of a country. Here they're showing a plant that is very beautiful. And although it's beautiful, it disturbs the other plants that are around it. And it's invasive because it's not of Dominican origin. And I have found, for the years I worked in the Division of Agriculture, is that the wealthier of us go abroad and have the taste for bringing in various things. And unfortunately, the higher up we go in the system, is the more able we are to break the regulations and pass through customs without anybody seeing or bringing in seeds. Please don't do it. It's a problem for the world. And it's a problem for the world in many ways, you know. And don't think you are helping because you don't understand the ecosystem that you're putting them into. Right now, the entire Atlantic Ocean is suffering from a pet fish which was taken from the Pacific and brought in. And some friend figured he could no longer look after his lionfish in his aquarium. And he probably just threw it out. He loved it too much to kill it. So he disposed of it in the sea. And right now, we have lionfish spreading from North America through our waters, and we did that fast. And we have no other creature except man who can kill the lionfish in our environment. Somebody loving a creature which he had brought in did something which has completely damaged the pleasant ecosystem of the Caribbean. Unbelievable but true. Many birds find tasty meals in the yard and fields. But you see what that is on the side there? That is chemicals. All sorts of chemicals. We love to use chemicals. We use them to treat ourselves, but we also use them to wipe out pests in our gardens. And if we're not careful, we wipe out a tremendous number of birds. When I came to school in Roseau, I forget how long ago that was, but I think it was in the 50s. In the 50s, almost all the areas at Goodwill had wasps, and many of the forests around the area had wasps. Nowadays, I can find wasps, but it might take me 3 or 4 outings to find a single one. Because the chemicals which we use for the cultivation of bananas wiped out the wasps. Totally wiped out the wasps. And any of you here who are Dominicans, when you go home, ask your parents where they used to see wasps. And you have to see wasps. I'm pretty sure many of you have not seen them. And that is what we're trying to protect. We're trying to protect the birds which are essential for many of the plants in our area. Well, increase your bird fund. This is increasing it with adults. And And there they are properly equipped and they're out enjoying the outing. You get physical exercise, you get mental exercise, and you get a tremendous amount of enjoyment. Be alert for birds and other animals along the road. Try not to be a part of our population that kills animals on the road. Please. Things you recycle. Now, within the last 30 years, we as a population have got accustomed to replacing paper with plastics. Maybe we really have cut down less trees because we have put in paper, but we have done a tremendous amount of damage to the planet with plastics. With plastics, we have done two things. First, we have made the demand for the products that make plastics more. Second, we have any plastics which are thrown into dumps or into countries like Dominica, where I wouldn't like to say it, but it's true, where we don't have suitable recycling processes. Plastics, even at the top of a mountain, will end up downriver in the sea. And they'll crumble and break away and become tiny particles. And even the fish will eat them. And if the fish doesn't eat them, the other day, last year, a whale washed up in the north, a big whale. And when we cut it open, and we were amazed to find that that whale had died because it had swallowed part of a crate. There is something about plastics that seem to attract animals. They like to taste it and they swallow it instead of food. Goats do it, poultry do it, birds do it. And some of my friends from marine biologists will not eat fish because they have consumed such quantities of plastics in that sea. We're trying to preserve the world for all of us to continue to live. And there's something about us as humans that, unless there are laws to change these things, we just can't find the conscience to stop doing some of things. Be one or two people who change. Reduce, recycle. Recycle can be very, very good, and if it's properly done. I have a young lady here who is helping us with floating classrooms, and she has to drink juice from plastic bottles. And what she's done amazed me. I was really amazed by it last week. She's collecting all the bottles that she's drunk here in Dominica, and she's taking them back up to the States, where she has a proper recycling process that she's confident in. It touched me when I saw that. It meant that sometimes the story is getting out. Reduce energy use. Turn off lights. Use energy-saving bulbs. Unplug appliances. You will save yourself and probably a lot of creatures which don't want bright lights in their eyes. These are little swallows, by the way, in mud nest. Join a club to learn more and contribute to bird conservation. Donate, be informed, support policies and legislation. Now, that's exciting. How many of us really make any effort to remember, to reread, and to pay attention to legislation, even in Dominica? This is very, very, very important. The people who put the legislations in place put it to try and help the population. And when you don't obey them, you can create some tremendous problems for them, because they're trying to protect the breeding cycle of animals. And that is where the importance is. You can contribute towards that by paying attention to these legislations. They haven't put them there just to make life difficult. The next picture, I think, this is more enjoying nature. You can notice the smiles on all the faces there. Some of them are forestry personnel leading the group. Now, this is a North American, this is what we call a migrant, it passes through. But this is a North American bird, and what it's got into is a plastic bag. I can't say whatever happened about it. It might have got away, because if they took that picture, they might have made an effort to get it and rescue it. But plastics are really a problem. It's one of the biggest problems that the world has. And honestly, I don't quite know what's going to be the solution for that. Here. This is the laws. Before you hunt, who are the hunters? I don't think they. The potential hunters in here. The birds here on the side are wild pigeons. It was against the law when they got those pigeons. And look at, there's no mercy there. This guy, he wasn't hunting for his own pot. He wasn't hunting for food. He wasn't hunting for sport. He wasn't, I don't know.
Sport.
Export.
Export.
Export. It was export.
Export.
Yeah, export. You see, I shouldn't say it, but our neighbors, both to the north and to the south, have a great taste for game, and they will pay quite a lot for the game which we have here in Dominica, and that can be a problem. Anyhow, these are the little things that I thought I agreed with Stephen would have been interesting for us to talk about on this important memory of birds, of creatures that live close to us and that we interact with. So this is what I wanted to present as what I thought we could share.